Well, welcome back everybody to the Formula Fun podcast, and welcome along to our sort of F1 2018 sort of preview, shall we say. Last time out was just taking a look at the new cars, and this time we'll be looking forward to the season to come and looking back over the testing now that that's all wrapped up. And of course, my partner in crime, as always, is Mr. Rage himself. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm brilliant. F1 is nearly back again.
Very close.
It is just 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks now, till Australia. So, yeah, should be good to have Formula 1 back again. And, I think we'll open up by taking a look at testing then. Probably fair to say, one of the hardest winters to read, because of the cold conditions, the snow on certain days. The first test, almost nothing could be gained in terms of trying to establish the order, but the last couple of days of the final test, we get a bit more of an idea. And how do you think testing's gone for the teams?
They're putting some good old mileage, mate.
Getting the laps in.
Good old mileage. Get some of those laps in, mate. They went round in circles, as some would say. And got progressively faster and then slower and then faster again. It was all right.
Some of them crashed, some of them broke down, some of them had no problems too.
Yeah, exactly that. Funny that we're watching the same thing.
Oh, I know. It's funny that we could read the same things from that. So I guess the real headline was Ferrari's times in the last couple of days of testings. Both provisionally first. Actually, Vettel broke it on day 7, and Raikkonen was a little bit slower. So Vettel now holds the provisional lap record at that circuit, going even faster than Felipe Massa in 2008 or something, which is the previous lap record. So even if we don't quite know the order yet, we know these cars are bloody fast. They are getting quicker and quicker. Of course, some of this could be attributed to these new hypersofts that they're running this year.
Yes.
But it was sort of a Ferrari were the only ones that did the normal thing of letting their cars loose on the last couple of days, and
They always do it though. The Reds, they always have a little bit of a poke.
They do, but Mercedes have been the quickest on the last 2 years in the fastest overall lap time. So it's not as if they haven't tried, but this year they just haven't gone for it at all.
No.
They haven't unleashed that silver beast.
The beast, the silver beast.
The beast has remained caged.
Well, should we have a look at some of the rough times that we've got here?
Yes.
There's some really good there's some good things to look at actually with these times, and I think my most surprising time, and if normally what they say, I don't know if it applies to this track because it has just been resurfaced as well.
That's
normally
the
they
other
say
thing,
between tyres it's about 0.8-ish, 0.5, sometimes a second. It all really does. I don't know with these type of softs, so we're not entirely sure. But let's just say, for argument's sake, let's say a second. If it was a second, then that means that Haas on the super softs was doing a 1:17.3, which is
because
damn speedy.
You've got the ultra softs in between.
Well, there you go.
They're actually 2 compounds harder.
Even better. So there's something. They're also running the Ferrari engine, aren't they? So
yes.
That Ferrari engine is firing on all cylinders. Car puns.
Oh, 6 rampant cylinders.
Rampant horses.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of performance gained from that Ferrari engine. I think Haas have maybe built a better car aerodynamically this year as well. I mean, as you look at the third car, Sauber, a long way down the list. That could be chassis and aero based, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the Ferrari engines jump forward that much. I think the big question mark and the big reason that so many of these times can't be trusted this year is the weather. Even the final 2 days, it was well below what it needs to be for these tyres to work properly. So I don't know. We don't know the fuel loads. We don't know which tyre was
the age old. I don't know the fuel loads or what they're running or anything like that.
It is, but normally you get a general order, a rough order.
But Ferrari normally do some lower fuel runs.
Yeah.
They always do. Ferrari do.
But I don't think we've got that this year because you've got Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, Renault, Haas, Toro Rosso, and Mercedes all right up there. So they can't all be championship contenders. I think what insiders are saying, I think Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari are all going to be pretty close.
Yes, I think that goes without saying.
Whether Red Bull have made the jump that everybody seems to think they have is the biggest question mark, and the second one is whether Ferrari are ahead of Mercedes, which some people think they are. But definitely improvements from Haas. McLaren, that was a much needed lap on the final day.
Do you think that because of the media shitstorm that McLaren had, that Nando just turned that car up and said, you know what, give me everything?
It's quite likely. McLaren are very... they do ponder to their sponsors a lot. Panda even, not ponder. So there's a very good chance, yes, that they turned it up just to get that lap in.
Because it was out of nowhere, wasn't it? He did 2 laps. He's doing a series of laps, and he was at 2 fast laps that I took note of, and then he posted that one, a 17.7, and I was like, fair. And then everyone was like, maybe McLaren aren't as in much trouble as they have been. I think they are. I did see a really good graph, and I wish I had the graph now. I might give it to you if I can find it.
Was it the one that I sent you on the speed traps?
It could also be the one that you sent me.
The one that I sent you on the speed traps, yeah. So I will put that up now.
Is it is the average speed trap one?
Yeah, that was from day 6, though. That would have changed.
But still, it was pretty cool. And it was good to see how, how slow in comparison. But I guess that was like an average, wasn't it? It was an average speed trap. It wasn't exactly the...
I mean, it was the same speed trap for everybody. And that was the quickest part of the circuit. That's where the speed trap was. I think the reason... basically, it showed McLaren a long way behind and Honda right up there. I think at that point, McLaren still had issues and hadn't done any quick laps, really. So I think that was the reason. It was just pretty funny to see because of the disparity between Honda and McLaren. You'd expect it to have been the last year's graph, but the other way around for McLaren and Toro Rosso. So that's, I think, the biggest surprise. I think that's what we'll talk about now. The biggest surprise of testing has been Honda. We don't know how much performance is in that engine yet, but the reliability you cannot deny. Toro Rosso smashed every lap count that McLaren ever did with them. And it really... Ted Kravitz said an interesting thing. If anyone doesn't know, Ted Kravitz is the Sky Sports sort of pit lane reporter for Sky, and he said very poignantly that is this pointing out now that it was McLaren working with Honda that was the issue, not Honda? Because Toro Rosso seemed to be working incredibly harmoniously. The engine's reliable off the bat. Everybody's singing to the same hymn sheet. And McLaren are having issues integrating the Renault engine. So it doesn't look like it was all Honda's fault. They definitely had reliability issues. That was Honda's fault. But maybe the fact that it didn't get fixed quick enough was McLaren's fault. And the way they sort of worked aggressively with Honda. So I'm very hopeful for Toro Rosso this year. I think they can make great steps up the grid, and they've made no doubt about it. They are priming that Honda engine for a Red Bull.
Do you think that's what they're trying to do? Because obviously, Christian Horner's got until some stupid date like May to decide if he's going to run the
Renault giving him a deadline.
The Renault
right.
or the Honda, which is that's a horrible decision.
Well, interesting.
Do you think that would be a lengthy contract that he has to sign into? Because people say, "Oh, is he going to run the Honda?" He'll be stupid to run the Honda, wouldn't he?
Is he? We don't know.
Well, the thing is, we'll only find out on Saturday, won't we?
Well, exactly. We don't know. The performance is still the question mark over that engine. I think they have the reliability now, though. But the big thing was about the Honda and the Toro Rosso relationship. Again, going back to Ted, he does a little series called Ted's Notebook, and he was interviewing one of the technical directors from Honda, from Toro Rosso, and asked him, or someone asked him in a press conference before, are you priming this? Are you basically a testing ground for this Honda engine to put in a Red Bull? And he said yes. And when Ted was interviewing him, Helmut Marko walked past and said something along the lines of, you really need to watch what you say, or need to have a word with you about what you said. And that's what he was referring to. Because the Toro Rosso boss, or the technical director, essentially admitted that, yes, if everything goes well, they are a testing ground for that Honda to be put in Red Bull next year.
I think it goes without saying, doesn't it?
I think it would make sense for Red Bull. I really do. Because that would give Honda everything they need. Red Bull would start from a sort of clean slate. And they've had a year to find out the processes of Honda and whether they can progress. But as you say, there is that deadline, unfortunately. Aston Martin were the other one that were being considered for Red Bull.
There's no way that Aston Martin are going to put together a power unit, is there?
You could very easily. Whether it be any good is another question mark.
They don't have the technical panache.
Of course they do.
I don't think so.
They build the engine. There's one weird thing that I've thought about as well.
Aston Martin's engines are all Mercedes now these days, anyway.
Yeah, I guess
and
so.
all the new Mercedes, all the new Astons are all using Mercedes power units and gearboxes. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Well, they've got the money and the skill to develop it. But they would need time. That's the thing. They were talking about 2021, really.
Well, yeah.
No, the weird thing is because I looked into it. All the McLaren road cars now are using McLaren-built engines. They're not using Mercedes anymore. So why don't McLaren, with all their power and sort of technical resources, build their own?
They probably outsource their blocks from somewhere, don't they?
As far as I know, the most recent cars are all listed as McLaren engines, as in-house. Whether they are repurposed from somewhere else, it's difficult to tell. But especially the newest one, the 720S,
which is very nice.
Is a beautiful little car. Yeah. The engine is an M840T, a McLaren 840 twin turbo. It is a McLaren engine, and it's I think it's got some hybrid system in it.
It's got to be a money thing, eh?
I guess so. But
when did McLaren
how much money would they be saving?
Engine. Look, to actually design your own power unit from scratch, and make it a viable solution in F1 costs billions. Easily, near enough that amount of money. So it's the only way that these big companies
not
like
if
Renault.
You've already got people on the payroll, though.
No, people like Renault, Mercedes, Ferrari, they sell off their power units at some extortionate amount to try and claw back a little bit of money. McLaren just aren't in that ball game.
No, I guess so.
They're nowhere near that whole. You know, it's very brave for someone like Honda to front up the cash to do something like this. Yes, they've got a massive back history of IndyCar and you know, Pinnacle Motorsports
and Formula One.
Yeah, I know, but the Formula One tech back then is nothing. They might as well have started from scratch.
They were in it right until 2008.
Yeah, I know, but 2008 through to the V6 hybrid era, is just completely.
They're different types of engines, but they were more powerful and more technologically advanced in terms of the base power unit back then.
It makes sense that someone like Honda, you know, who can do what they've done.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I can't remember the last time I thought, oh, well, that's a rather pokey McLaren engine in that car. Do you know? Or it's only of recent, and maybe that's what they're doing.
Well, that's the only reason I brought it up was because they always used to have listed as McLaren Mercedes engines.
Yeah.
But they're now McLaren built engines. So I'm just wondering if there is that shift and whether they've decided, because engine bills are 80, 90 million a year. if a rule set stays the same, I mean, you recoup half of it at least, even if it does cost you $1 billion. But anyway, and they could sell them to other people. But it's interesting to see. Back to testing.
I don't think it would cost $1 billion. It's probably way out there.
I think
but...
it's a bit less, but you're probably not far off the whole
Yeah,
process.
it's a good couple of $100 million to do that, I reckon, to do your own proper engine. But if you think about it, if they do, that McLaren, I know we'll go back to testing, but McLaren are in that position where they don't have a sole engine supplier. They're in a sticky position where they have to rely on, a detuned or a customer engine that they know is never going to get them onto the top step. It just won't.
That will come up in the news section, but there's a very interesting rule change that's been made in the last couple of weeks. I guess we'll mention it now. We may as well. It's relevant.
Oh, you're a motherfucking cheeky news, you bastard!
Perfect. I've got to get that soundbited for future. I need to get a soundboard and just have these on call.
News sponsored by Cream in a Can. It's can that comes in cream form. I mean, the other way round. Cream in can form.
You want that bloated Christmas feeling all year round? We'll just crack open a can of cream.
In my day, I always used to have the cream fed to me intravenously because I don't like to use my esophagus.
And now I have type 2 diabetes. It's a big thumbs up from me.
Moving on.
God's sake. I haven't missed this. Well, I have missed this. Yes, the rule change. Basically, there's been a lot of talk in the last few years of customer engines not getting the same engine settings. Mercedes having different qualifying modes to the different teams. Now they all run through a new electronic system, which is governed by the FIA and built by an external company. And now it is illegal for customer teams not to be given the same engine maps and settings. So they get everything by the law, by the letter, that Mercedes get and Ferrari get. And I presume Renault would have maybe started doing it, though Renault have generally been better with their customers.
Cheeky engine maps, you bastard.
So
they've always found little gaps and ways around this.
They can't now, though, because everything, all the looms, everything in the car is now mapped into this central system, like the boxes that McLaren make for them as well for the rest of the systems. The FIA can monitor everything, and there is no way around it now. So that's
interesting. When's that coming into force?
It's coming to force, so it will be from Australia.
Really?
Yeah, it was decided a few weeks ago, I think, just before the first test.
Very tasty.
So we could see a big improvement from especially Mercedes teams in qualifying.
I bet McLaren's sitting there going, for fuck's
sake. Well, it doesn't make a lot of difference to McLaren. Because, I mean, when they were with Honda, they would have got all those maps anyway. And now they're with Renault, it just means they're more on an equal footing with Red Bull and Renault.
Who wants the Honda maps, though, really?
I think they might surprise you this year.
Who wants the Honda maps?
Oh, Mr. Honda, you need to get the rights of the map. Oh.
The next day in?
I don't even know what you meant, so possibly. Right, let's get to one of the major issues of testing.
Arigato, Mr. News Section.
No, we're not. That was random sneak up on you, pop in the face news.
Oh.
Please stop.
Okay.
I guess McLaren's issues, dig a little deeper into that. So, constantly breaking down during testing. It seems to be chassis issues and integration of the engine. They had exhaust placement burning up the wiring loom.
It's just fucking bad.
They had a hydraulic leak.
Didn't Zach come out and said that they just haven't done a good enough job preparing the car for testing?
Yeah, having come through all the tests saying there's no problems, it's all absolutely fine, it's just media speculation. Right at the end he said, yeah, we didn't do good enough. It's just
fucking shit.
It's just same old from McLaren.
Yeah.
I think they've just got into this sense of, well, we're not going to do very well anyway, so let's do a half-assed job and crack off at 5, shall we, lads? It's a joke, really. I mean, one of their final issues on the final day was a power unit related issue. So that was Renault's issues creeping back in, but it's just their integration, and it just again brings up those question marks as to how much of it has been McLaren. And I guess we'll find out.
Look, if you think about it, they have started with a brand new power unit. It's the first time they've used this power unit.
Yep.
This, Renault V6. They don't know the little cheeky workarounds. Obviously Renault's probably helped them with certain things, but obviously one of them that stopped their major bit of running was that exhaust issue, which is just they haven't even got that tightly packed rear end like Coke bottle. I didn't get that. Surely they know that. They know where to place a loom. And bodywork. Like this basic stuff. This is
you do wonder how they cannot work out sort of the heat distribution of an exhaust.
Look, the car's lovely. The car's beautiful. Nando will pull something out of it. He
there's
will.
clearly speed in there. Yeah.
Yeah. For Jesus, please, for the love of Fernando, provide us with a car that can at least get him a podium, because I think I will probably shed a tear.
Do you know what? After all this, I hope it's Stoffel. It won't be. I kind of hope it will. I want to see him lose it. I really want to see him just completely break down. I don't know why.
Mando?
I don't know why. Yeah. It's just such a funny story. And hopefully we'll get some more memes out of it. That's the only thing he's been good for at the moment. But yeah, I honestly, I agree with you. I hope that he recovers this year. I hope McLaren recover. We need them at the sharp end. And there's 3 very strong Renault teams this year. I think that's the next one to talk about, is Renault. Some very good early form in testing. Definitely made a step forward, but sort of petered out a bit towards the end of the test. Fastest time of an 18.0 on the Hypersofts on the final day, Carlos Sainz, which is the same time Red Bull did. Definite improvements in that car. But how everyone was talking about them being challengers the first couple of days, I don't think that's going to be the case, is it? I think they're going to be locked in a battle with McLaren.
Who's this? Renault, sorry.
Yeah. Definite improvements. Going down the grid, we've talked about Toro Rosso, we talked about Force India struggling. Force India, Sauber and Williams really struggling. Very surprising considering the Mercedes engine in that Force India and Williams, but they just don't look good. Force India have admitted they need a huge update for Australia to get anywhere near where they need to be. Williams really have gone for a very radical concept. We missed it out completely in our last podcast.
Did we? What did we miss?
Well, we noticed right at the end that I'd forgotten to put Williams in the group of pictures, so we went and quickly looked at like a 3D image of the car and said, right, done. But I've since been shown on Ted's notebook and stuff that is a very ambitious car, but it doesn't seem to be working at the moment. What's
the different bit?
They've got their side pods are almost, so you've got the sort of the bulge out the side pods, and most of them curve in a bit and go down. These go in a huge amount. It's like a cavern under there, and then cut down right at the end. So they're extremely tightly packaged. All the barge boards and the diffuser is completely new and reworked, and it's a complete sort of revolution and evolution of last year's car. There's a lot of brand new ideas on that car, but it's not working. They admit they're struggling. Force India admit they're struggling, and Sauber could benefit as a result, because I think they've moved forward, but I think apart from Force India and Williams, the rest of the grid have moved forward further, is what I would say from testing.
Well, hopefully they can get things switched on. It's it's always good to see it. Innovation's actually working. So it's brave that they tried something new, and it's a shame that it hasn't come together straight away, because sometimes teams like that, like Williams, a couple of years ago, they straight out of the bag. They were just fucking quick. That was when they turned up without the livery at testing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I think it's first season of the V6 era, and they were rapid quick, and everyone was like, "Oh my goodness, Williams are going to be a contender." They quickly fell off through development, but you never know. They might catch up with that development race and find out what bit of air, or from this testing, find out what wasn't working for them. So
Yeah,
you never know.
I think
Don't discount. If they're doing crazy things like that, you never know.
I don't necessarily discount them that they're slow. It's very difficult to read, but just the signs coming out of there just is that it's not working. But
Could be some classic sandbagging.
Do Williams need to sandbag, really? I can understand why Mercedes have done it.
Yeah.
And maybe Red Bull have done it a bit, but
Cheeky sandbaggage.
Williams just no. Sandbagging is just flaying a dead cat, really, on a car like that. But we'll see. It's going to be an incredibly tight midfield, I think. Yeah, Sauber, not much to say really. The other issue controversy out. I don't know how much you've heard about it out of testing. Was the smoking Ferraris.
No.
They be puffing smoke everywhere.
No.
So basically, in very layman's terms, in the last couple of years, teams have been what's called, I think it's called oil burning or oil.
See
blowing.
the oil burn. Yeah.
So
You got a picture
reburning
of
the
this?
oil. What of the oil or the smoke?
The smoke puffs.
I can give you a link to the news article on it.
The puffos. Smoke puffage.
The puffages,
Cheeky puffage.
cheeky puffers.
Ferrari smoking 18 car. What's it? And oh fuck me.
Yeah, so all the Ferrari cars are doing this.
So they're burning heavy oil mixed in with the fuel then.
Well, they're not allowed to burn it now. That's outlawed. Well, they're given a directive. It's sort of 0.8. Now limited to 1.8 liters per race, so they can't burn too much oil because they have to only use 1.8. So basically, what they've done now is they've got a little. You'll see on I think the second image or the first image. There's a little under the rain lights. There's a little letterbox shape, little rectangular vent.
Under the where? Sorry.
The rain light.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's what they're calling an oil breather. Breathers are essential parts of any power unit on every car, but this year they've been subject to a new rule which says they must vent to the outside and cannot be routed back into the engine. So basically that's all it is. It's just them venting out the oil burn off. Shouldn't really make any aerodynamic benefit, although I don't think they'd be exiting it there if it didn't. But it just makes them look terrible. Because they are smoking badly. So
It's a bit. I haven't seen the smoke on track. I've just seen it when they're exiting.
there are little puffs on track, but nothing. It's mostly on startup. It's just this huge ball of smoke. So in Melbourne,
I can see.
don't worry. On the grid when they start them up for the formation lap, there'll probably be smoke everywhere because all the Ferraris are doing it. The two Ferraris, two Haas's and two Saubers. So. It's just one of those little things from testing. And that's what they've decided to do with their oil burn off this year.
Testing memes.
Testing memes.
I didn't find any good testing memes.
They weren't really memes. There were Toro Rosso got made like these like weeaboo style cardboard cutouts of their two drivers in a very sort of Japanese anime style.
Oh yeah.
They were standing around the paddock at different times. Apart
Fair
from
enough.
that, not really much in the way of memages. They just
Memes.
They just get on with their biz. So yeah, I think that's probably it from the testing itself.
Mhm.
And now we move on to the very difficult task of making our predictions for 2018, the season ahead. Start with the main one then. World champions. Car and driver.
Oh, are we just gonna run straight in there?
Yeah.
Uh.
This is the preview podcast.
Well, I was going to say last last on our last podcast, I was going to say a car. I don't know if it's changed. But I'm going to stick with my prediction, and it was before testing because I liked the look of the car. So I'm going to go with Dan Ricciardo and Red Bull.
Okay, I think Vettel will win the Drivers' Championship, but I think Mercedes will win the Constructors. Because I can't see Raikkonen doing enough. I can't see that Ferrari having enough of an advantage to negate the terrible downfall in form of Kimi Raikkonen. I just don't think that driver pairing will be able to beat Mercedes. But I think Vettel will win the Drivers' Championship. He should have last year, in my opinion. I think Ferrari mucked up for him. They had the quickest car this year, and I expect last year, and I expect them to have maybe even increase their advantage a little bit this year. I think if you've got Red Bull up there fighting with Mercedes taking points off them when they don't do so badly, it could throw a spanner in the works. But I still think Vettel will come out on top. Personally,
I would like to see that. I would like to see him win one.
With Ferrari, it would be it's his dream, isn't it? Because of Schumacher in the Ferrari, that's why he's there. And I think this could be his year. Ferrari just need to get everything right. If they don't have a complete meltdown again, I think they'll do it. So I guess we'll go from there, just through team by team and thinking sort of whereabouts they're going to be, how we think they're going to do. So I guess we'll just continue with Ferrari. Do you think Raikkonen will bounce back this year, or do you think he really is such a second fiddle now? That
He's full on second fiddle.
And he'll be as terrible as he was.
I wouldn't say terrible. He will pick up the scraps. He's what Ferrari needs as a second driver, and it's how they've done it for ages.
Is he though? He's got nowhere near. He's been behind.
It will be in Vettel's contract that he is number one driver.
No, but that's
Ferrari.
not what I'm talking about. I don't even. I'm not even considering him beating Vettel. I mean, is he good enough to get Ferrari constructors? Because he's been behind both Mercedes and both Toro Rossos both Red Bulls for the last 2 years.
No, he's not. He's not good enough.
No, and I think it will cost them. They can't win the constructors with him there. I think he's going to be a big problem for them this year, unless their car is super dominant. Then you can see that form starting to come back. Down to Mercedes. Do we think Bottas is going to rise to the challenge of your man Lewis? I think it's very unlikely, isn't it? I think he'll be a bit closer, and I think he'll win races again. But
he's no chance. I think he no. I like Bottas, but he unfortunately he doesn't have that
killer instinct.
Aggressive killer instinct to win a championship. If he got put in a position where he was there and he was able to do it, out of luck, then he will, or he was the only person in that car that can possibly do it, then he would. Yeah, I think he could cruise a car to a championship. But he doesn't even have a Rosberg instinct where he will play the mind games to win. He just doesn't. He doesn't have the stuff, unfortunately. And it's sad though because he is too much of an Iceman to win a championship.
Yeah, he's icy in all the wrong places. He needs to be
literally
icy in his resolve and his attitude, but he's not. He's icy in just everything.
He's like when you step in a puddle. It's like when you step in a puddle in socks, and it's like, oh, really? That is the passion.
That's been
an
inconvenience. I mean, the puddle's done its job. It's inconvenienced me, but it's not something I'm gonna go home this evening and say, oh, guess what happened to me today? I stepped in a puddle. Not write home news about. That's a great analogy. Valtteri Bottas is a puddle.
He is the puddle being stepped in with socks. Sock puddle.
Actually, if it was socks, I mean, it's more your fault than the puddles. So, at that point, you're elevated above the puddle, so he's even lower if it's in socks.
Moving on.
So, Mercedes, you think will win the... well, actually, no, you think Red Bull will win.
I think Red Bull. Red Bull.
Do you think it'd be Mercedes or Ferrari second then? Because I think Mercedes will win.
It will be Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes.
Okay, yeah, I'm going. I think Mercedes. I think Red Bull might even beat Ferrari. But I still think Ferrari will win the drivers. So Red Bull then.
So is this championship like as in or is this constructors? Because constructors, I think it will either be Red Bull or well, I think it'll be Mercedes for the constructors. Mercedes or Red Bull. I think you're right, but I think championship it's obviously gonna be between the top three. I think it'll be Dan Ricciardo. I think it'll be Vettel, and I think it'll be Lewis. Who comes out on top out of those three? I'm not too sure. I don't think Max Verstappen's got it in him yet to do it. I don't think he has.
The thing is with Red Bull, and we'll move on to them now. So they clearly have the best driver pairing out of those three teams,
Hands down.
and that affects them adversely as well, especially when going for a championship because they're taking points off each other for drivers. But for constructors, it's a dream. If Red Bull are as close as you think, which I don't quite think they are, I think you're right. I think they have a great chance. Well, no, I disagree. I think they have a great chance of the constructors because they've got the two best drivers. But I think they would take too many points off each other, as opposed to Vettel and Hamilton, who will just walk away from their teammates. So I can't see them winning a drivers' championship unless they got the best car. But I can see them winning the constructors if they're close enough.
I think it's going to be so close.
I hope they're all, within not even half a second, 'cause it was half a second last year at some point. 2 or 3
I want
tenths
them to
at
be
most
fighting,
tracks.
throughout the race.
We need those 6. They are the 6 best drivers on the grid, really, apart from Raikkonen, who I think on his day could still have it in him. But
Look, Alonso should be in that Ferrari, really.
I guess so, yeah.
That's where it should go.
Yeah, okay, not 6 best drivers, but the you know what I mean. The 6 of them fighting out, I think, would make a fascinating battle, and that's what we all hope. I just have a feeling that Red Bull aren't quite as strong as people are thinking they are this year. I think that Renault engine's still going to hold them back, and we've got that free engine rule this year as well. That's really going to hurt them if it's not reliable enough.
We'll see.
So best of the rest, I guess we can probably do them all at the same time and just do them in order, and then we can talk about the teams, the inter-team battles. So
I think it'll be McLaren next.
You think McLaren 4th?
Yep. What do you think's 4th?
I think I agree.
Yeah.
If they get that engine up and integrated quick enough, I think Alonso will get enough points on his own, let alone.
Yeah.
Stoff Van Dorn needs to improve.
But you can't forget the pairing that is
Hulkenberg and Sainz.
Hulkenberg and Sainz. That's a beastly pairing. That's the second best pairing on the grid, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I think it's pretty close between them and Mercedes. I still think Bottas is a great driver, but I think as an all-round team,
as an all-round package, both as good as each other.
Do you think we're going to see Hulk break his duck this year?
I fucking hope so. I really, really do. And if any next 5 years is going to be pivotal for Hulk, it's just until the next regs come in. If he doesn't do it, I think if he doesn't do it within the next year or two, I think he might even walk away from it. Do you think he'll really carry on? Keep doing it, keep having all of the fucking setbacks? I don't know, man.
It's difficult to say. It's he's a difficult driver that teams don't necessarily want because of his height, especially with the new rules and the cars getting even heavier this year, which is something actually we'll talk about in a bit. I completely forgot about the halo and some of the adverse effects that's having, but I think he's going to have to be lucky. He's going to have to luck out with Renault. Renault are going to have to suddenly make a jump to a top team in one season when they didn't expect it, and he'll end up in that car still. I think as soon as they have a trend that is getting towards World Championship territory, they'll look for a star driver because they'll be able to attract them. I think for his career, he's going to have to luck into it, in a sense. He's going to have to... They turn up next year and they think they're quick, but all of a sudden they're up there with Red Bull and Mercedes. Like drivers do over the years, like Vettel and Webber did, essentially, with that Red Bull. Because if the car's suddenly quick and then he's got a chance to prove himself and he starts winning races or getting podiums, then they'll keep him. But I think if it's a gradual transition, I think he'll get phased out before he gets to be in the real race-winning car. But I hope so. I hope you're right. I hope he does get it soon, because there's no one that deserves it more at the moment. So we're saying McLaren, Renault. We think 4th and 5th,
Yes.
and Alonso to beat Van Dorn,
Yes.
Hulkenberg and Sainz.
Science to beat Hulkenberg.
Just to be different, I'm going to go for Hulkenberg, but I could not call that one.
It was
really
going to be
don't.
so fucking good to watch.
It's going to be
that.
great.
Yeah.
Right, 5th is Renault. 6th then. I would say out of that lot, I still think Force India will recover. I think they'll take 6th.
Well, they better do. they've gone forward every year, and I think this year they're going to have a fucking fight. They're going to have a real fight on their hands, because that car didn't look good, did it? When
It's
they
not
first
good.
popped it out?
They've admitted themselves it's not good. Perez has said that unless they're planning huge updates for Australia, and unless they work, they're in trouble for the first few races until they get back to Europe. But I think they'll still fight back. I think the speed won't have suddenly disappeared from that car. It will just be slight changes that they need to make.
It's the aero, isn't it? It's aero, and whether that because I'm assuming they borrow a wind tunnel, and maybe they just couldn't get the car in. They couldn't get it there.
I think they have one, because it's Jordan. Don't forget.
Do
And they had all the facilities.
It's not going to be very good.
Well, I don't know. I lack the information to make a clear judgment on that. But I think they'll get 6th. I think Perez will probably... You know what? I think Ocon might edge Perez this year.
I hope he does, because I think he's the better driver. He was my last year driver of the year.
He was indeed. Rage's 2017 driver of the year. Your cream in a can is in the post, Esteban. All the way to sunny France.
Exactly what he wanted.
It is, yeah. Got to do something to liven that guy up, though. He's a real another grey personality, isn't he? Unfortunately.
He is.
The other thing with Force India, do we think that it will blow up again between them, because it was pretty explosive at times?
It was
during
pretty
the last season.
spicy. It was pretty damn spicy.
Almost untenable,
find
people
out.
would say, by the end of the season. But it could be very interesting. It could be detrimental to them, because they can't afford to be doing it this year. They had such an advantage last year, but not this year. So I guess that leaves us with Toro Rosso, Haas, Williams and Sauber.
It will be, in my opinion, Toro Rosso, Haas. What was the other ones?
Williams and Sauber.
Toro Rosso, Haas. No, I think Haas might even edge them. I think Haas might be a dark horse. So I'm going to go Haas, Toro Rosso, Williams, Sauber.
Yeah, I think
Haas are going to be fast.
they're looking good, aren't they? On testing basis. I mean, we can't.
They had their
read
wizardry
much,
body. This is pod racing. Pod race. They had some crazy pod designs. So I hope they do.
So there's something working on that car this year that wasn't last year. So that's a real plus. I think I would agree. Haas and Toro Rosso, I think we'll split by hairs, but I think, yeah, Haas, Toro Rosso, I'm sorry to say Williams and then Sauber. The thing with Williams is, if they had a couple of star drivers in that car, I think they could potentially even be above Haas and Toro Rosso, because I think it'll be quite a good car once they sort out their issues. But the problem is Stroll is just not good enough, in my opinion, at the moment. And Sorokin, I really don't think is going to be much better.
No,
They've got a real problem with those two drivers. They can't drag points out of it.
They knew they were in problems when they called back fucking
Massa.
Massa for another year. They knew that they didn't have a driver pairing, and they even considering fucking bringing in whatchamacallit. You know who I'm talking about.
Give it some.
I will not be surprised is it Sergey? Whatever his name is.
Sergei Sorokin. Yeah.
I will
Just think
not
of the
be
meerkat.
surprised if Sergey, gets edged out before they go into Europe, and they bring him in. It
Yeah.
would not surprise me. If he has a good first couple of races, and I bet it's in his contract. I bet you it's his contract. If he falls below a certain pace or whatever, or doesn't finish however many races, or there's going to be some clause, definitely, he will get edged out. He'll do a Danny fucking torpedo.
Yeah, I mean it's very difficult to say, but if you go on testing times alone, Stroll is the one under pressure.
Yeah, well, Kubica is doing well. Fastest time, isn't it?
He was 5/10 slower than Sorokin on quicker tyres. So it's still proving the point. The reason Sorokin was chosen over Kubica was because of his 1 lap pace and that raw pace in the car. So he's still struggling compared to Sorokin, but Stroll was struggling as well, even more. Although he was on the softs compared to super softs for Kubica. But I could see it happening as well. I don't think it's the best thing for Williams to do, is get rid of one of them mid-season. I don't know that Kubica would do a better job, but it would bring much needed attention to them, because the other big thing is they're losing Martini next year.
Are they?
Yeah. So that was announced during testing. So title sponsor gone, car potentially a lot further down the grid than it should be, or where they've been the last few years, and 2 drivers that aren't really marketable. Although they're in 2 countries where there is no other driver, which helps, Russia and Canada, and same with Kubica as a Polish driver, but we'll see. And Sauber, I think, will be closer. I think they'll score points every now and then. I think they'll score quite a lot more points than last year, but I still don't think they'll be quick enough to get themselves off the bottom. But that whole midfield is going to condense up. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be big winners and big losers from that.
There'll be a few lunars as well.
There'll be a few lunars, mate. You mark my words.
So I guess we'll just run through the final thing of that then, starting at our 6th place finishers, who were differing. Let's start with yours, which was Haas. Magnussen or Grosjean?
Grosjean, Magnussen.
Yeah, I think Grosjean will beat out Magnussen. Toro Rosso, Gasly and Hartley. Very difficult one to read, I think. Gasly will probably get the edge in the end.
Yes, I hope so. Hartley's got more... He's fast, and he's been fast for a long time, and he's got much more experience, in my opinion. Well, he has. He's older. He's got much more experience. But has he got relevant experience? He hasn't got the single-seater experience of recent.
That's the
but
issue.
I think he'll be able to turn it on. So we'll see who comes out the box faster. That will be a rife-old fight, as it normally is in that car. I think those seats that they've got there, worst seats in F1. Worst seats in F1.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Because of the
It's just
ever
absolutely
rotating carousel.
Cutthroat.
Yeah. I'm surprised Hartley's in that car this year, to be fair.
I'm surprised they didn't call up Buemi.
Really? I would have thought they would go with that. You've had Alex Lim waiting for years. You've got Gasly's finally got his chance after years. They've got plenty of other young drivers. I'm surprised they didn't continue with their ethos, to be fair. I'm kind of glad they did go for Hartley. Buemi wouldn't be a bad call, though I think he's an absolute dickhead.
He is. But maybe they thought they wronged him in some way. You know, they dissed him out of a seat and they never gave him a chance and thought, you know, maybe he just thought, let's give him a go and see what happens. You never know. I think for someone to shine straight away, that it will show them straight away that he's meant to be in that car. So we'll see. If he doesn't improve, then there's always someone else for that seat. There always is. Like I said, it's the worst seat in F1.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's a big season for both of them. They got a chance to get in from the beginning and prove themselves this year. So we will watch with bated breath on those two. Then I guess we will go to Williams. I mean, it's
we already had a little chat, didn't we? But
the worst of the worst situation there. I think just because of his, I hesitate to say experience, but Stroll probably will beat Sorokin.
I think so. I think it would be very bad if he doesn't. But I've heard good things about Sergey.
He's one of these like
Sergey
Gasly
Sigma,
that's just continued to kick around in Formula 2 waiting for their opportunity. There was such a rush of young talent coming through. They didn't all manage to get a seat. Palmer was one that obviously didn't work out. You got people like Roland, Alex Lynn, two great British drivers still waiting for their chance. There's a ton of them, and they just don't get recycled into F1 quick enough. So Sorotkin's one of those that's got a lot of experience in single seaters, probably more than Ocon, Stroll, and probably Leclerc combined.
There's a wealth of good talent that's gone through the single seater series that has been overlooked. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Sam Bird, again, missed British talent.
Yeah.
There's that other young guy who's in Mercedes, who's luckily got some kind of back end role in Mercedes. Can't remember his name. You know his
Verline.
name. No, the British one.
George Russell.
That's the one.
Yeah, he's still a nipper.
Is he?
Yeah, that's his first season as reserve driver. He's 17.
Wow.
He's
We'll
the
see what
next
happens.
potential big talent.
And then we've got the old Lando Nando.
We do. Yep, he's 1 year younger than Russell. Those two should look
can't
good.
wait to see if he actually switches it on, that guy.
He showed good pace against Alonso in the same car. Very different discipline, but he put in some cracking stints in that competition. He's definitely quick. And then I guess Sauber, we've got the latest prodigy and probably the most talked about since Verstappen, Charles Leclerc. I really do think this guy is the real deal.
Who's this, sorry?
Charles Leclerc for Sauber.
Yeah, there's big hype about him. Big hype.
He is immensely talented. No one has dominated Formula 2 like him, like he did a couple of years ago.
I haven't heard such hype about a driver since Jules. Dare I say it?
Yeah, possibly even higher for Leclerc, and definitely being the guy that's being moulded now. Unfortunately, that we did have to lose Jules being moulded for that Raikkonen seat, I think. And it's a big season for him, and I think he'll obliterate Ericsson. I really do.
Oh, well,
Blow him away.
Ew, absolutely take him to school. Ericsson shouldn't be in F1. He shouldn't be in F1.
Well,
he brings the Swedish man.
Let's not take anything for granted.
He brings the Swedish
a
man.
lot of people said the same thing about Verline, and he didn't exactly sweep Ericsson aside, did he, last year? At all. So, Ericsson's not a bad driver, he's just not a great driver. He's good. He's average. Better than average. Just sort of 6 out of 10 of Formula 1 talent. And that's the grid then, on that note. There is some other names on. Nikita Mazepin.
Nikita Marzipan.
I almost said Marzipan, but I don't think it is, I'm afraid. Driving Force India, but that's irrelevant. Quick look at mileage then before we move. Oh, we've already done testing.
What was that, sorry?
Goodness sake. I was just scrolling down the same page and came to most laps completed. But we're not on testing anymore.
We're not.
So
but we can touch back on that if you want.
I mean, Mercedes and Ferrari up top, as would be expected. The big surprise was Toro Rosso, 822 laps. I saw a stat. It's almost as much combined as the last 2.5. I think it's 2 years and half of the year before that McLaren managed with Honda.
Well, that was pretty much just Honda going, "Oh, fuck you!"
With
the memes that came out of that were spicy. There was some tough, spicy memes.
There were, and Toro Rosso are off and running and look reliable. Whether they're fast, we will have to wait and see. Right, I thought we would just touch on what we would hope this season. I suppose more of a progression of the drivers working hard and some better racing. I think it's really going to be down to the closeness of the I think that's what we hope for, isn't it? We want the front three teams within 3 or 4 attempts every race, and the 6 of them battling hard, and the same for every other midfield team. I'd like less than half a second between, in an ideal world, between Renault and Sauber. And really battling hard, because I think that's the only way they're going to, because they're going to struggle to follow again. But we will see. One change for 2018, I will mention, because I guess it's kind of in what we will see in 2018. Sort of classifies as news. So restarts this year.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a red flag, it's still at the discretion of Charlie, but he probably will use it more often than not for the sake of the show. The cars will reform on the grid and do a standing start again.
I heard about this.
Yes.
So is that definitely going to happen?
It's in the rulebook. I've got one of it on one of these pages somewhere. New restart risking chaos, says Grosjean. No, you're risking chaos by being on a grid, Growman. May feature standing starts after red flag periods, with the cars being led by a safety car before forming up on the grid. Though drivers will have the option to fit new tyres in the pit lane while preparing for the restart, they may not have fresh rubber left in their allocation.
Wow! So they get a chance to refit rubber, and then come back round for a restart.
Yep.
So that's mad.
Yeah, I was trying to. This is what Roman's complaining about, and I'm still trying to work out.
Of course, he's fucking complaining.
F1 races this year, so basically it can, wherever possible, there will be restarts, standing restarts after a red flag. It's not something we see very often, red flags, so, and if it's going to be raining again, we probably won't see a standing start. That's when we most see red flags, is heavy rain. And that will probably still be a safety car. So it's very rare we're going to see it, but we may see it. But the thing that he's complaining about, drivers will have the option to fit new tyres in the pit lane. They may not have fresh rubber left in their allocation. Oh, okay. So Roman's complaining basically if it was red flagged with 6 laps to go and they did a standing start and they'd used all their tyres, they would have to do a restart on very old rubber, which he thinks is dangerous. But I think it spices up the show a bit. I sometimes wish safety car restarts would be standing starts, because they're just more exciting.
I think that'd be good. It'd be good fun to see. Interesting. There's going to be some moans.
Well, it could be a championship decider, that kind of thing, if someone's running away with it. But like Rowan says, it does make one good point there. If they've used all their allocation of tyres and someone else behind has a brand new set of super softs available, say the top 4 or 5 had run out of rubber, and a Renault or something from 5th puts on brand new ultra softs or something, and they get a standing start, wiping out like a minute advantage, they could win the race.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. One little rule change for this year. I've got a news piece about the secret of the floor of Ferrari. Whatever.
News piece about what, sorry?
The secret tunnel in the floor of the Ferrari. Apparently,
You keep cutting out for me, I'm sorry.
That's all right. It doesn't really matter.
No, go on, carry on.
I dismissed the the news story. Apparently, there's a secret tunnel in the floor of the Ferrari at the back.
Secret tunnel.
Secret.
Where's
tunnel.
it going? Narnia?
I didn't really look into it. I mean, if you're interested, I can look it up, I guess. Again.
Nah, that's all right. There's always these magic paddles, secret tunnels.
Has grabbed attention in pre-season testing thanks to the appearance of a new bodywork tunnels exiting alongside the gearbox. The intrigue over the tunnels was such that they prompted some wild conspiracy theories about double diffusers, although these suggestions were wide of the mark. These channels are instead the latest step of a clever design path that Ferrari have been working on in recent seasons. Has the idea of an extra channel on top of the diffuser area to help direct airflow. This trench was previously left open, but for this year it's taken the step of covering it to increase its power.
Right. Okay. We'll
Just
see.
The
then.
anoraks getting their coats out again.
Oh, he's got a little secret F duct there. Thank you very much.
Mr. Photographer at Saturn Images, can I have 72 high-res 4K photos of this channel? I need to analyse it with the boffins back at HQ. Little story developing that Renault are have given themselves a big headache. The Renault team specifically, because they've really packaged the rear of their car and pushed the chassis very hard, but it's really going to affect the cooling of that engine. They're worried about reliability.
Again, you're breaking up for me, so could you just repeat what you said then?
I can't keep repeating all this stuff.
I'm sorry. Every time. Oh, okay, the listeners heard, but I didn't.
Yeah. Renault have given themselves a headache in pursuit of improving their car because they've packaged it so tightly and they pushed so hard. Quoted Bob Bell, they pushed like hell on the chassis that it is struggling with cooling badly. So that could be an issue.
That they fixed. This is where the rumor mill starts. That they fixed reliability issues, so they're able to pull more from their engine. Renault have, so their power is now up. But now you say that they're not. That's not the case.
Basically, what the philosophy Renault as an engine manufacturer have done is for the first few races they will be dialing the engine back to make sure it's reliable. Because all the teams are, I think, because they think reliability is the most important. As for the actual power, I've not heard anything. What Renault as a car and the chassis have done in particular, they've almost ignored that. So they've dialed it back, but they've also packaged the car so tightly that they're really struggling with cooling. So we might see some issues. And they did have a gearbox issue on the final day as well because of it. Ricciardo saying that Red Bull are the most prepared for the season since he joined. I think we all know that. They look... Well, they always struggle at the beginning of testing normally with little issues, and they're looking good this year. And just the final one, the fuel row with Red Bull. Do you hear about this?
No.
Well, basically, Red Bull, as they did last year, are actually using a different fuel to the one that the factory Renault team and their customers use.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
So TAG Heuer got their watch fuel out, did they?
almost, yeah. Renault used BP Castrol and Red Bull were using Exxon Mobil.
Okay.
Toto Wolff came out and said that Red Bull had made a mistake by doing so, and that Horner basically said he was an idiot and needs to shut up.
What does Toto know about Renault engine anyway?
Well, he just thinks that going with a different fuel than the manufacturer is working with adds additional complications that don't need to be there. But if like Christian does thinks the fuel is better, then it's probably worth the effort.
Yeah.
And they have to pay for... Basically, all the engines have to be dynoed with the different fuels. And Red Bull are basically going to have to pay Renault to dyno separate engines with their fuel. So it is a huge extra cost, but then they're probably getting paid a huge amount of money by Exxon to use the fuel as well.
Yeah, they ain't paying for shit. That's fuel money's being sorted.
Yeah.
Exactly the same with Mercedes using Petronas. It's exactly the same. I'm assuming that's what they're using, oil and fuel. I'm assuming it's all the same thing. I don't know. What do they use? Mercedes
use Petronas, yeah.
They do, don't they?
But McLaren have signed them up from 2019.
Oh, what, Petronas?
Yeah.
Oh.
Although it's spelt differently in this. I don't know if that's a typo from this guy
Is it
at
Petrobras?
Autosport. It's Petrobras.
Yeah, that must be... I have seen that before. I don't know why. It must be a subsidiary or something. But no, I have seen it with a B instead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's literally
I don't know-
Petrobras.
You know, that is genuine and that is right. I don't know why or what that's all about, but yeah, no, I've seen that before.
Maybe a slightly different company then.
If you look at some of the old, oh god, Oh, fuck me. What's it called?
Oh, that
Benettons.
logo. I know.
The Benettons. The old
Yeah,
Benetton. 90s
yeah.
Benettons. Petrobras. Or Petrobras.
I think they are a completely different company.
I think it's the same thing. There's something different though. I don't know.
Petrobras are Brazilian. Petronas is Malaysian.
Well, there you go. It
So
must be something completely different.
different company. Yeah.
But they almost exactly the same liveries. Or thingies.
Similar colours, yeah.
Yeah. Very odd. Anyway, there you go. A little bit of insight for you.
Absolutely fascinating. Wow.
I have no insider news.
No, I think we decided we don't want to do a massively long one. We haven't got time. I don't think we're going to do topics. That was the general
Just in
news.
general, I don't have any news. For once, I have no secret squirrel news.
Well, I've just I've gone through all the news I have. There's not much now until we get going again. Lewis Hamilton drove a sideways car at NASA today.
Fabulous.
Hulkenberg drove a Renault
man.
through Nice.
Oh wow! You know, the things these people get up with, they're just crazy.
I'm sure. He also probably put a stupidly obnoxious picture on Instagram.
Who did?
Lewis, maybe, probably one of them
Probably.
did. Someone has. I guess there is a little discussion we could have instead of a topic that I have just remembered. Well, I've just seen again. So there was a comment. Are you aware of Carmen Jordan? Sorry, Carmen Jordan.
Yes, and I'm
Yeah.
aware of the comment. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's used to be Renault reserve driver. She's now been.
We never touched on the actual reasoning behind this comment and what it actually overshadowed. And we can now. So yeah, carry on.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, maybe we can have a little chat about it. So she has now joined the World Motorsport Council as sort of an advisor into female inclusion in motorsport and how that can be developed. But she's made very outspoken comments in the past, and the most recent one was that she had driven a Formula One car, and she'd recently driven a Formula E car, and said that it would be more suited to women, and having driven an F1 car and sort of an Indy car and everything, that she said in the past that she thinks it's a physical issue for women driving in Formula One. And obviously this caused a lot of outrage. Jensen Button slayed her in the press. Tatiana Calderon, who's the reserve for Sauber, said she was completely wrong, having herself driven GP3 cars, which she thinks are harder to drive because they've got no power steering. So just what we think really about the comments, whether they're helpful, and I guess the very inflammatory conversation of whether we think it's true.
I think it's the biggest load of bullshit could ever come out of someone's mouth. Literally is ridiculous. And for someone in her position to say something like that is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's got nothing to do with gender, because there are girls out there that could kick the living shit out of half of the grid at the moment, physically. There's no physical barrier letting a woman into F1. It is a political and it's a gender issue. And as well, there's not the steady feed.
I think it's a
of females
grassroots
into the
issue,
sport.
personally.
Yeah, there is a grassroots issue as well, but it is a gender issue, you know, because girls aren't taking up those roles because they don't have anyone to look up to as such. There are, you know, I think there will be in the next 10 to 15 years a massive influx of women in motorsport because of the likes of Claire Williams and stuff like this, and I really do hope that there is. But to make comments to say that women aren't able to drive Formula One cars is just, well, to be fair, it's slanderous. How she has her position still, I think she should have fucking resigned.
I think that's the big problem, is that she's become the member, the female member on the World Motorsports Council that they were referring to, and the fact she's still there is just completely wrong. I completely agree with you on the physical issue. I don't think it's even a consideration. I think they definitely have the strength. I think the issue has been the talent. Calderon is very close. and there's a very good chance she could get that Sauber drive if Sorokin doesn't perform instead of Kubica. So it's very close to happening, and I think you're right. If she found her way into Formula One and had a full season, no matter how she did, it would inspire generations more. But I think the big issue is a grassroots one. It's one of those things that Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport, and there's only 20 people that can drive each year. Let's look at it that way, and 18 of them are people that have driven for years before. And if you have one driver coming up per division at a time, female, which sometimes you do, you just don't have the economies of scale to bring through the talent required.
No.
The reason so many, hundreds and hundreds of young drivers don't get to Formula One, male, each year that are in the lower categories. If you've only got one woman in there, her chances are so much less. Regardless of whether she's a woman, just on a talent basis.
Whether she's a whammon.
A salmon whammon.
Regardless if she's a whammon.
So I think you just need those larger numbers coming up through and people giving them more of a chance.
No, I agree. I still don't think we're there.
We're nowhere near having it regularly. But I don't
think this new lady Calderon, I don't think she's the answer.
Well, she's the first one to reach a high enough level at a young enough age. She's still only 23, and she's in her third season in GP3. Has proven herself. I think Sauber is the only place she would get the chance now, and she's the reserve driver. So, official test driver is her actual role. I think it would be smart of Sauber to do it. I think no one's tried. That's the problem. No one's taken the risk.
Yeah, that's not the right word. I don't think. That's what frustrates me, because I don't know if it should be a risk to have a female driver.
Well, I think you've got to look at it another way. Calderon and say someone like Susie Wolff, if you completely take gender out of the equation, weren't good enough.
No, Susie wasn't good enough.
Weren't a quick enough driver. But this is never going to change, and I'm saying taking a risk because you've got to put one in to encourage people. You've got to give someone that chance to prove it, even if they're not potentially good enough. Think of how many paid drivers or young drivers that aren't good enough get into Formula One above so many other people. I think becoming the first full-time woman driver in the sport for such a long time is a better thing than the adverse that you're saying is that you're putting him in just because it's a woman. I think the positive effects will far outweigh that.
I don't know. I disagree in the fact that I don't think they should put her in or take the risk to put them in, like you said, because I don't think that should ever be a problem. At the moment, there isn't anyone, I feel at least, that I've been shown that is fast enough to be in Formula One who's a girl. I haven't seen her times. It's hard to compare. If I can compare her with someone else, the thing is, I don't think that they have someone, and like you say, it's a skill, it's a feeder issue. They don't have anyone fast enough to do it yet. I think they will.
But then it's the same end of the same scale. If you don't put someone in, then how are you going to get the influx of people at a graph?
It will make a mockery, and it will make a media mockery. It will be a marketing mockery of the woman. No. It would be. Because she'll be the slow woman at the back. She would be. It would be bad. They need a woman in Formula One who is. You need a Hamilton. You need a Vettel. You need someone who is just savagely quick. You need someone where sex is no barrier. That's who you need to be the first. Not someone who can just tag along or who can, on a good day be able to pull a good result. I think they need that person who can really push that forward, that boundary, and just flip it on its head. But
I don't think you're going to get that person if you don't start giving people opportunities.
Yeah, I guess.
Calderon, British Formula 3, she was 7th with a podium in 2013. 2014 in the European Formula 3, she was 15th in the world. 15th European, 27th. GP3 series in 2016, 21st, and GP3 last year, 18th.
No, she's not a trailblazer in that sense. Good luck to her. Like, I think it's great that there's someone who is good. Obviously, she's incredibly fast. Obviously, she wouldn't be where she is, but I don't think she is. She's not what they need. They need someone faster.
I do understand your point.
What I don't want it to do is someone takes the plunge, like you said, they take the risk and they do it, and it's a mockery, and it never happens again.
I get that. Yeah.
It's a really sticky situation to be in, and I think though that's what F1 needs. They really do. They need that. And some people come out and saying, "Oh, F1 should have the women's league just like football." No, I don't think so. It's the pinnacle. It should be a mix, a complete mix, because I don't think it should be separate. I think for once they should be the pinnacle and they should lead by example and have a completely gender neutral formula. It's
Well, it is at the moment. It's not.
I know it is at the
not one or
moment.
the other.
I know, but lots of people have said, that's why don't they do a female category? Why don't they do a female?
That was one person that said that publicly, and that was once again Carmen Jordan. That's what started the whole thing months ago.
Because she can't get fucking people in, so let's just settle for whatever. I don't think we should settle. Let's not settle. Let's wait until the right person comes along, which might not be for a long time. You never know.
Yeah,
I think it'll be 10 to 20 before we get someone.
I think Formula One is the wrong place as well at the moment. You've just got to look at IndyCar and NASCAR, and people like Dil Silvestro and Danica Patrick. That because of the larger grids, but that is the same thing. Danica Patrick was given a chance and she was not quick at all at the beginning, and she became, one of the quickest drivers in NASCAR and IndyCar. They do at the same time have to, be given that chance to develop in the cars that they never get to drive. Even when they get given test and reserve roles in Formula One, they don't get to drive.
Good chat. Good, informative chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I think for that kind of chat, like, I don't know, people, I really am against that whole anti kind of woman movement and women can't drive, because that's absolute rubbish. I think
that's not the argument. I think the argument is,
you know what I mean, though. That's the stigma attached to it, and it is rubbish. So yeah, the more the merrier, and I hope that in the next couple of years we do get, like I say, that trailblazer. And I think it will come, but I just think we need to wait for the right person.
The problem is it hasn't come in 75 years of Formula One.
Because it's a male-dominated sport, and it's not until now that we've had the opportunity for women to have that equal standing. And that real equal... No, because they haven't, man. 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it hasn't. Like, the women haven't had the equal opportunities to get into motorsport, man. There was some back in the day, but, it's an athletic sport now. I think the equal opportunities for women, it just hasn't, or that maybe the need from women to do what they're doing it hasn't been there. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, the last one was in the 90s. It's not that long ago.
Yeah.
It's
what was their name? They weren't fast. It was a media thing.
Have a quick look through It's only been just over an hour, this one, so we've got a little bit of time before we wrap up. So the last driver was Giovanna Amati in 1992 for Brabham. Made 3 starts.
Where did she come?
She came. Didn't qualify.
There you go.
The most successful woman driver with half a point is Lila Lombardi.
That's the one.
1974 to 76.
Yeah.
She made 17. She entered 17 times, started 12, with a best finish of 6th in the 1975 Spanish Grand Prix.
I think the fastest woman we've had.
It's Danica Patrick or Silvestro.
No. Sorry. She never raced in Formula One. What's her name?
Did those two?
I know they haven't. 1 second. Patmos.
Pat Moss.
She's a rally driver.
Sterling
Moss's sister.
sister.
And she was fucking fast.
Torch Driver 11.
So if we won't go into Patmos, but if you want a little read about Patmos, there's some good BBC articles about Patmos. If you fancy a little read, she was a rally and a time attack.
Yeah,
And,
it's
she
difficult
was-
to tell from those times, though.
She was, it was old times, but incredibly fast woman.
Okay. Well, there you go. There's some off-season reading for you. Pat
There you
Moss. Go read her Wikipedia entry.
Go read a bit about Patmos.
Do it. Do it now.
Do it.
Okay, quickly, before we wrap up then, Melbourne. 1, 2, 3. What should we do this year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Or 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think we should just do 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's the fastest loser.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I think Melbourne, we will see Vettel.
Yeah.
Hamilton. Ricardo, Verstappen, Bottas.
I think it'll be Vettel, Hamilton, Ricardo, Verstappen, Bottas. I agree.
I think if Red Bull fire and they're reliable, they could get ahead of Bottas. He's never been too good in Melbourne. Raikkonen is the wild card. We will see.
Nah.
I do.
I'd love to see the
Ferrari
Red
will come out
Bulls
on top.
really chase it with the other guys. I really would love to see him really go for it.
It's, as I say, this has been the hardest winter. It really is anybody's game this year, because it's not. There's probably is someone that's ahead, but we just don't know who yet, because we really just can't read anything from testing because of the temperatures. So for the first time in years, we're going to turn up there and really not know. There could be a lot of surprises come Melbourne for the teams themselves as well. Suddenly running their cars in much more usable conditions, might suddenly find they're not as quick as they thought they were. Because it was just the cold temperatures that were promoting them. So we shall see. I know it's moved back this year, but it is definitely March, isn't it?
Yes. 25th.
25th. Okay. In which case, we will be back with our roundup of the Australian Grand Prix on probably the 27th or the 28th of March. And we'll go over our thoughts. As always, if you did enjoy it, hit that like button. You can subscribe if you're new as well. Leave your comments and thoughts and predictions on the season ahead down below as well, and we'll have a read through those and reply to as many as we can. All of them. I'd say as many as we can. It's really not that popular. My channel, I can always reply to all of them. So I don't know what I'm talking about. And yeah, I think that's how we'll wrap up today. Any closing thoughts before we end up for the season to come?
I hope it brings us the racing that we all want to see. I hope that we have a race with Nando for once, and I hope finally we see that Vettel Hamilton tussle.
Yep. I want to see Red Bull in that fight desperately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I want to see Verstappen, Vettel, Hamilton, and Ricardo really going at it. And I want to be able to say at the end of the season, absolutely no mention of the word Halo, because I want it to not influence anything. That's the best that we can hope from it at the moment. And one thing, very quickly, that is one thing I forgot to mention. The Halo has apparently been a huge headache because of the extra weight and the integrations to the chassis. So we could see a lot of big surprises from that as well as the season goes on.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, it weighs 30 kilograms or something, including the whole structure. It has to be built in under the chassis as well. The whole chassis around it has to be redesigned. They're built by one company that makes them all for them. So a standard design, standard weight. And basically the teams hate it because all the ballast that they could put elsewhere in the car has now been wiped out by the Halo. It's still because of the weight restriction. So they now can't put 30 kilograms of ballast around the car where they would want it. They've now got this huge lump in the middle of the car. So it's
No, I
had
didn't know that.
it's had a massive effect. So that could be a big influence. The people that get the biggest handle on that, literally, could make the biggest gains, and it could be why Mercedes is struggling. You never know. Are they struggling? We don't know. We'll find out next time. Thank you,
It's going to be
everybody.
the best one. It's going to be the best one. Tune in.
It is, yeah. First race season is always great. So tune in next time, and as always, thank you, everybody, and we'll catch you on the flip.
Potatoes are good if you slow roast them over a giant stone.
Boil them, mash them,
especially
stick them in a
sprinkled
stew.
with soap. Oh yeah.
What's taters, precious?
Oh god.
What's taters?